Off we go on a Tuesday. It's the 6th of May. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossich. She's Sarah Ellison. So good to be back with you guys here on this Tuesday. We've got a lot to discuss, including right off the top in just a second here, an update on the soon-to-be official Vault merch line. We've been working diligently throughout this offseason with our designer, and we've got some news to share with you, and honestly need a little bit of feedback from you coming up in just a second. But of course, the elephant in the room is no longer. Justin Tucker was officially released last night, Sarah, last evening. I guess it was late afternoon, technically by the Ravens, and we're going to discuss why was he really ultimately cut by this organization, the messaging that changed. We'll look at his career, of course, and we'll just kind of put a bow on what really became the biggest story of this offseason for the Ravens and a cloud that was hanging over their head that is no longer. So we'll get into all that. We'll also share some stories from draft weekend, including the war room interaction between Eric DeCosta on the Baltimore side of things and Howie Roseman on the Philadelphia side of things, which is an interesting segment to say the very least, especially when you think about two heavy hitters, because that's what they are for their respective organizations. After that, we're going to do a little bit of combing and maybe a little bit of predicting and trying to figure out which quarterback is the one that Eric DeCosta referred to in his interview on the lounge last week, who he referred to as a guy that got away from him, that they would have been interested in selecting day 3, but ultimately he was taken before they had a chance to do so. So all that and more is what we have coming up. And that now brings me to this. What you see right now in the live chat is a pinned comment. If you click that link, it brings you over to a community post that we put up last night. And let me go screen share on top of this. We'll go twofold. So you guys can click on the link right now in the live chat if you want to participate. But this is what it is. As promised, the Vault merch line is officially in the works. We're looking for your feedback on design options. So please cast a vote for what would be your first preference. It may not be your only preference, and it may not be the only thing that we provide for you on the soon-to-be Vault merch line. But this will allow us to kind of dictate and organize with our designer. You'll see there's a bunch of different choices. We also have honorable mentions that we hope to provide you as well, like coffee mugs and bumper stickers, et cetera, et cetera. Please leave a comment. Please vote. It's going to help us out immensely as we get ready to roll this thing out, Sarah.
Yeah, and I saw Holly had a question of, do you have to be a member in order to vote?
Do you have to be a member in order to vote? Can a non-member go check that link right now and confirm that for us? Because I'm not sure.
She's implying that she's not able to vote.
Aha.
We'll see.
Actually,
I think it might be. I think it might be only members can.
Interesting.
But we can look into seeing if we can open it up more.
Okay. This is really just kind of a beginner sort of exercise for us.
Yeah.
To then relay to our design
I'm
team.
hearing people say they're not members and they voted. So,
okay, good.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
If you're in the audio-only audience, you can pop over to YouTube or just go to our specific channel where you'll find this community post. We would love for everyone, as many people as possible, to participate in it. And again, the goal is to roll this thing out, to roll this merch line out at some point before the start of this upcoming season, which we are on track to do right now. So it's exciting. We want to get your feedback. We appreciate you. You can do so by clicking on the link that right now is pinned in the comment section. Sarah, it was a momentous late afternoon yesterday. Not a surprise that the Ravens have decided to release Justin Tucker, but certainly the end of an era, certainly something that comes with a whirlwind of emotions, I think, for this fan base. But it is now finalized. The successor to Justin Tucker is Tyler Loop. At least he's going to have a chance to prove that he is exactly that. But Justin's been in this organization a long time. You worked for the organization for a long time. I'd be curious to get your thoughts before we dive into the specifics of how we got here.
Yeah, it's interesting because you said it's not a surprise that he was cut. We said yesterday that we thought it was coming, right? So in that sense, with the most recent, news items, it wasn't a surprise. But you bringing up what are my thoughts going back to all the way 2012 when Justin Tucker came into the organization, kind of as like a hero. Like literally a hero after Billy Cundiff had missed a field goal that would have sent things into overtime against the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. And there was so much anger towards Billy Cundiff missing that field goal. And then you cut almost exactly a year later in Denver, Justin Tucker comes in freezing cold conditions up at Mile High Stadium, and he nails a field goal that sends things into overtime, or that won it, I think, in overtime. So you like have all these flashbacks of all these memories of, like, that memory, him singing opera, the Royal Farms commercials, the 66-yarder against Detroit. There's 20 game winners over the years, like Mr. Automatic, this and that. And so in that sense, going back and thinking a year ago today, it's shocking. It's absolutely shocking how you can go from being a hero and then, in 2012 and then 2025, more than a decade later, he leaves in just disgrace, right? With the 16 allegations from different massage therapists over 8 different places, and obviously he denies everything. And so, in that sense, it is shocking. In that sense, it is shocking. But given yesterday that we were saying that we felt like this was coming down the pike, with more recent news, it's not. So, but I thought, Bobby, we could kind of review the Ravens statement and what they said the decision was based off of, and us get into, like you teased off the top, why they really did cut him and why right now. Why on May 5th did they do it? So maybe we can review their statement and then kind of dig in.
Yeah, this is the statement here provided by Ravens Productions across their platforms. Of course, Eric DaCosta, the one who penned it. Sometimes football decisions are incredibly difficult, and this is one of those instances. Considering our current roster, we have made the tough decision to release Justin Tucker. Justin created many significant and unforgettable moments in Ravens history. His reliability, focus, drive, resilience, and extraordinary talent made him one of the league's best kickers for over a decade. We are grateful for Justin's many contributions while playing for the Ravens. We sincerely wish him and his family the very best in this next chapter of their lives. And this, of course, came, a little over 24 hours after John Harbaugh was asked about it as well during his rookie minicamp press conference. We'll get into some of the specifics of that in just a bit here with the language, the very careful language, the careful messaging, Sarah, that was attached to this.
Yeah, so I kind of put together 4 different reasons why it's now, why they cut him, all that kind of stuff. And some of it overlaps and some of it's complicated and some of it is not, right? So they're clearly pushing the idea that this is a football only decision. And Mina Kimes didn't love the statement, and I think she represents a lot of people that feel the same way. And so she had quote retweeted the statement, says, "Was this tone necessary?" So why were they pushing so hard that it was a football only decision? First of all, I'll say this, Bobby. The Ravens know how everybody's going to react. They know that the whether it's Mina Kimes or somebody else, there was going to be people that feel that way. And they move forward with this statement anyway. And I think none of us were born yesterday, right? It's impossible to pretend that these allegations, which he has denied, are looming over all of this, right? It's like impossible to separate the two. So is this decision completely separate from that? I don't think so. And at the same time, I don't think it's only the allegations. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's both. So here are kind of like the 4 things I went with. Why cut Justin Tucker now and in this way? The first reason I want to get to, and this is not in any particular order, but the first reason I'm getting to is they phrased it this way to protect themselves legally and against any potential NFLPA grievances. I accidentally wrote NFL, but I meant NFLPA grievances. And you can go back to, I'm trying to forget, I'm forgetting his name, the safety from Seattle that the Ravens had cut. Earl Thomas, and the grievance process that they had to go through, right? So if the NFL goes through this process and there's just nothing that they legally can put together and say, absolutely 100%, this was what he committed. The problem is that because the statute of limitations has passed, He's not going to be able to be taken to criminal court. I don't even know that they can do anything civilly at this point, I think, because of statute of limitations. And so it's going to be tough to prove it, to the point where the Ravens couldn't be held liable. Like if Justin Tucker's lawyers came after him and said, listen, he's never been charged, he's never been taken to civil court, this and that. And so they could come with a grievance through the NFLPA and say, we want our millions and millions of dollars back. So I think first and foremost, that's why they kept pushing the message that this was a football decision. And you can see that Kyle Barber, who also formerly worked with the Ravens. Does he still work there? Or does he still write late for work? I can't remember.
If he does, he's doing it from Colorado, which I believe he's from. I believe he just left the state.
Yeah. So he said that too. He was answering questions. He said this is a legal procedure. If the Ravens state they're cutting him on the basis of sexual assault allegations and evidence points to not guilty and investigations come up empty, suing and lawyers will follow. Stating it's due to football-related decisions, it protects them. Greg Rosenthal, who works for NFL.com, said the same thing. He goes, I do believe they would have cut him anyway. He thinks that they would have cut him anyway, but some theories are that to avoid the NFLPA wrath and keep a relationship for future. I don't know that they're trying to keep a future relationship, but I will say the part where they do thank him, they kind of get into that and his contributions and this and that. There might just be, and this is tough for the alleged victims to hear, right? Very tough. And I completely understand that. You don't want to hear that. And at the same time, there might just be a human element that I'm sure that they've worked with him for over a decade and he's vehemently denying this, and so they're like, want to say thank you for what he has done, even though that feels like it flies in the face of the alleged victims, and so there might be a human element there, but for sure, I think first and foremost, they're trying to protect themselves legally.
Well, it just makes me think that last nugget there on Greg Rosenthal's tweet is something that I did 2 hours on this last night, as you know, on my personal channel. And I just think it was an outlet for people. People wanted to, it was really kind of became a radio call-in show. And the amount of people that I heard from got close to 10 different guests that called in. And somebody brought up the point, I think it was Nate, a guy named Nate was like, would you ever see Justin once his playing days are over? Because Sarah, there's no saying that this is the end of Justin Tucker as a football player.
Correct.
He may see some punishment here, he may not, but another team might give him a chance and may need his services at the kicker position. But Nate's point to me was, hey, from a special teams perspective, you've seen the Ravens constantly look to groom their future coaches that have played for them in some cases. Sam Cook is a consultant right now. Anthony Levine Sr. is formerly co-cap. He's an assistant within the special teams department. And so Nate was like, could that have been something that you see happening down the road? And I just didn't know what to say at the time, honestly, because it's just so premature.
Well, I mean, Deshaun Watson, he got signed. And at the end of the day, Bobby, I'll say this, and it's just a fact. It's not necessarily, oh, my watch is turned on. I'm sorry if you're hearing those beeping. Like it's just the nature of all professional sports is that if you feel like somebody can help you win, you will put up with a lot. You will put up a lot. And so the Ravens had another place to go. And we'll get to that reason in a minute with Tyler Loop. But if another team doesn't have anywhere to go and they're looking for a kicker and say like they're midseason and they need one, it would not shock me if somebody were to pick up Justin Tucker, if he had served his suspension and somebody were to pick him up. That's just the nature of professional sports.
It wouldn't shock me at all. And just to be clear, Nate wasn't bringing that up. I don't think anybody's arguing that. It was more so, hey, could you see him on Baltimore's staff at some point in the future? And my comment to that was, okay, well, they've done it in the past with some of these guys, right? Levine and Cook are the most recents. But to me, it was a little bit premature because you just don't know, one, what the punishment will be, if anything at all, how the NFL will come down on him, and then ultimately, is he the type of guy? Kind of compare kicker to a punter, very different. Aside from the Pat McAfees of the world, punter does not get the same limelight, is not viewed in this public way that kicker is, right? From a visibility standpoint. And so I just wondered, I was kind of wondering out loud if Justin would be a potential distraction down the line because of the public, what's the right way to put it? Justin and Sam Cook are both Ring of Honor types of guys. They're both great in their own ways. Justin is a new level of popularity, I guess, is what I'm getting at. So,
well, I can just say they never brought Ray Rice back. I don't know that he wanted to. They did bring, on staff, they did bring him back to talk to rookies and players to say, to give them, he would always say, he's like, one decision can change your life. And so they brought him back to speak to them and try to give perspective on decisions. But he was never put on the staff full time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I doubt they would bring him back on the staff, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Second reason. Oh, I just wanted to say one other thing real quick. Oh, again, about the timing of right now. It's also, again, to protect themselves legally. It's probably from a strategic standpoint, smart to do it before they even announce the investigation, because they can say, we didn't even know what they were going to come up with, right? Like we didn't know what that was going to be. And also say this, a lot of people are saying that this cut now probably means that they know that he's guilty or this and that. I don't know that I'd go that far. Again, I think it would be dumb to pretend that the allegations aren't impacting this, but I don't know that this is a statement of, oh, the NFL is going to has all this evidence that he's guilty, they could still come out with that, but I don't know that is why the timing was yesterday. I think it has more to do with, Tyler Loop, and it has more to do with getting it out there before the results even come out, because I think it protects them legally. Okay, number 2. Why cut Justin Tucker? Well, this is where the football stuff does come in, right? Tucker just had his worst season of his career. And Bobby, this isn't like worse by a little bit, like because he's had such a high standard. Obviously, we know that he's the most accurate kicker in the history of the NFL. But he missed 10 total kicks, which is 3 more than any previous year. His field goal conversion rate was 73.3. Bobby, that ranked 31st in the NFL. This wasn't like, oh, he had been number 1 forever, and then he dropped to like 3 or 4 or 5. Like it dropped to number 31. And we know that the Ravens lost 5 games by a combined 22 points, and Justin Tucker missed 22 points in those 5 losses worth of field goals.
Which, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
People might be like, well, they still had a chance. They had their chance in Buffalo. And that's true. They had their chance. But what if they didn't have to go to Buffalo? What if the postseason ran through Baltimore like it did in 20, or like it could have in 23, like it could have in 19? Well, it really did in 23, because they hosted an AFC Championship game, which meant they had 3 different, or I guess two home games throughout that postseason. That changes everything. 1, 2, 3 wins within that lump of 5 losses. That changes seeding. That changes implications. That changes everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It changes. And we've heard players and coaches say that. They've said we need to get off to a faster start so that we can have home field advantage. I think that they feel like they could have beaten Buffalo at home. They had done it earlier in the season. Okay, John Harbaugh actually referenced this third reason, right? Salary cap savings. By cutting Justin Tucker and using a post-June 1 release, they can divide up his dead cap hits. So in 2025, the dead money against the cap will be $2.87 million. This is according to SpotRack. And then in 2026, it'll almost double. Next year's dead money will be $4.64 million. So what does that mean for this year? It means that they save $4.2 million of cap savings. And Bobby, that might sound like chump change in the NFL, but with the way the Ravens are up against the cap this year. And remember, Eric DeCosta talked about earlier in the offseason how he's like he feels like he's going through the couch looking for quarters or dimes or pennies that fell in between the cushions, right? Like $4.2 million is a lot is a lot that the Ravens could sign like half of their rookie class with that money, so that money won't be available until June, but they can plan on using other money until then. And so obviously Tyler Loop being a 5th round draft pick is going to be much more affordable. And so I think based off of his play last year and how far he fell with his worst season ever, combined with how much he costs, these are football decisions that I don't think are, just like I don't think the allegations and how they're overshadowing this should be swept under the rug. I don't think the football decisions should be swept under the rug either. And this might be the biggest one, Bobby, like why right now? I don't think there's any coincidence that the last day of rookie minicamp, after Tyler Loop was first on campus, they all got to look at him. He's there with the shadow of Justin Tucker overlooking him. And I think the last day of rookie minicamp, they say, okay, we're cutting him now. I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons for why May 5th. It's like, well, now we have a viable option. And so, yeah, there we go. We can see the way he looked. Randy Brown, who is their kicking coach or consultant, they said, you know what, go take a look at all the kickers. And he went across the country and he met and practiced and watched and coached, almost all the top kickers that you can think of. And when he came back to Owings Mills, he said to Eric DeCosta, Tyler Loop's the guy. Other people were talking about Fitzgerald, other people talking about out of Miami, Andy Borregales. A lot of people had them as their top 2. No, he came back and he said, Tyler Loop is the guy. Bring me Tyler Loop. And so as soon as they saw the Patriots go out and get Andy Borregales, they're like, okay, we're not risking this. We know who our guy is. So we're going to go ahead and grab him. So Jeff Zrebeck pointed out how the Ravens said, Sashi Brown said this, he said they were going to wait until the NFL's investigation had concluded before they made a decision. But that changed. And Jeff Zrebeck said, well, why did that change? Well, the Ravens officials will have to answer that. They'll answer it whenever they have their next press conference, which is going to actually be a while away. I think that's another reason why they made the decision. They announced it yesterday because it was at the end of all the press conferences, and the OTAs aren't for another several weeks. So they can't be questioned until people are made available again. But Jeff said, but it's not hard to surmise that drafting a kicker changed the dynamic and why they were comfortable of just being like, you know what, we don't need to wait for the investigation. We have our guy.
Yeah, this is all strategic. And sounds like Loop was handpicked by Randy Brown, which is sort of what you were alluding to. And it brings you all the way back to Jerry Rosberg doing the same as looking at the undrafted rookie out of Texas and Justin Tucker. So if history repeats itself, which it's going to be really, 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 really challenging to obviously live up to Justin Tucker's standards when it comes to his football accomplishments, Sarah. But one thing that you and I have been kind of trying to track down all offseason is when it comes to this team and some of their shortcomings in January is how can you handle pressure management again when you're inevitably there in January? We all expect them to be there, assuming that they'll run the table or at the very least be a playoff team in the regular season. The same could be said for Tyler Loop. How will he pressure manage this situation? Because what he's walking into, yes, is a lot easier than it was yesterday, in my opinion, because if Justin's in the building, while I'm sure Justin would have been a good teammate, Justin also would have been a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what Jeff is getting at here in this tweet. I mean, Justin has a large presence, so much so you can see nines. Nines are almost synonymous on game day, jersey wearing wise, as they are with 52s, 20s, and 8s. Like, what other market is that the case? I don't know if there is one. And so
it already would have been a large presence without the allegations, right? Like he's the most accurate kicker in NFL history. It already would have been a shadow.
And it already would have been a story too.
Yeah.
Right? It would not only been a shadow or a cloud, but it would have been a story. Oh, wow, they just drafted a kicker in the 6th round. What does this mean for Justin? How much does he have left in the tank? it would have been a distraction regardless. Jeff goes on to write, fair or not, it was going to be awfully hard for rookie Tyler Loop to seize the kicking job with Tucker still in the building, as he has been, by the way, in recent weeks, according to Harbaugh from Sunday.
Yeah.
Would have been awkward for everyone. That could be part of the explanation for why they didn't wait out the investigation. So again, pressure management is going to have to be executed here by Tyler Loop regardless, right? Regardless of Justin being around.
He's going to have pressure for sure.
The pressure is going to be there. And I guess the question is, it's really hard to evaluate that, as Harbaugh kind of alluded to during his press conference this past weekend. But Randy Brown sees something in this young man. He had a lot of experience. He's got a big leg, as we've already noted, converting from 62 last year at Arizona. He played 5 seasons. He redshirted his freshman year, and that field goal percentage did go down slightly every single year. But you got to hope that in an NFL program, in a Super Bowl or bust era that he's walking himself into, that he's going to be able to handle the ups and downs that inevitably come with the start of his career.
For real. And just lastly here, Bobby, Jeff answered a question that I think is on a lot of people's mind. He had a follower said, hey, Jeff, do you think they would have drafted a kicker without the allegations? And Jeff said, I think it's definitely possible, particularly if Randy Brown liked the Loop kid as much as they said he did. Bobby, during the season, we were having debates of whether they needed to bring in somebody during the season. And Tucker did bounce back. I mean, he ended up bouncing back and the last couple of games, then into the playoffs. But I remember being like, they need to bring somebody in now because like he's missed too many kicks that have led to losses. And I mean, I know I was like for it, right? I was like, I don't know that you need to cut him at this point, but bring somebody in just in case. What if he doesn't get out of this funk, this kicking funk? He ended up doing so, but I agree with Jeff. I definitely think it's possible that they may have wanted to draft a kicker. Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, and this actually summarizes. So I gave 4 reasons why cut him now. And this kind of sums it up. But I remember this on the State of the Ravens press conference after they had been knocked out of the playoffs by the Bills. The media had asked Eric DeCosta, do you anticipate Justin Tucker being on the team in 2025? And Eric DeCosta said for Justin Tucker what he did not do for Mark Andrews until last week, which is he said, I fully expect Justin Tucker to be a part of this team. That was before the allegations came out. Right. So it seemed, now that could have been coach speak, and he didn't do it for Mark, and Mark is still here. Justin Tucker is not. So things change all the time based off of, what's happening. So, but it seemed like at that time they were willing to try to work it through with Justin. And maybe I still think, or at least I would have wanted them to draft a kicker, with allegations or not, because I was so nervous about how poorly he was kicking during the season. I wanted competition here. So did the allegations change all that? Possibly. Because here's my thing, Bobby, and this is what I always come back to. It's what we've debated about, the Browns and the Steelers and their quarterback situation. It always comes back to this. Does off-field behavior affect things? Yes. But at the end of the day, teams will stick with you if they feel like, not all teams, but a general rule of thumb in professional sports is that if you can help the team win, they will put up with a lot. But in the end, this time, his off-field accusations overshadowed his on-field contributions from last year. If he were still playing like it was 20, the year he had that 66-yarder in Detroit, maybe we're having a different conversation. I don't know. But he didn't. He's coming off his worst season. Then the allegations were there. And then on top of it, they found a viable replacement in Tyler Loop. If you take away any one of those 3 elements, then maybe we're talking about something different. But in the end, his accusations overshadowed his current on-field contributions, and they found a viable replacement. And that is why in the end, they cut him on May 5th to 2025 and brought his era to an end.
Makes a whole lot of sense to me. On yesterday's live stream on my end, folks were asking, hey, is there going to be another kicker in the building? Like all of a sudden now it's just Tyler Loop. Well, not exactly. There is one other kicker that's expected to sign.
He was wearing number 3 in those videos we just showed.
Yep, he was to Tyler's right. He was on the left-hand side of the screen to Tyler's right. And Tyler, of course, wearing number 33, which is strange for a kicker, but it looks like he's rolling with it. Wyoming kicker John Hoyland was in that number 3 jersey. He's been participating, as Jeff notes here, and as also Jeff reports that he's expected to sign as an undrafted rookie. He went 13 of 20 last year for Wyoming. He was 22 of 25 the previous season for them, including 10 for 10 inside of 45. So there was just some curiosity yesterday, Sarah, now that Justin is out of the building, who else might be in? And this is the answer. It's Wyoming kicker John Hoyland.
Yep. And then just real quick, we said it off top, how crazy it is. He went from this hero in 2020 or 2012 and now leaving in disgrace. Really, it's crazy to think. It was just kind of yesterday. I tweeted kind of the summary of his career with the Ravens. I've said it several times. Most accurate kicker in NFL history. 7 Pro Bowls, I believe 8 All-Pros. 417 field goals made, which is the most since he entered the league in 2012. 1,775 points, the most in the NFL since he entered the league. 64 field goals made from 50-plus yards out. That's number 2 in NFL history. And then 20 game-winning field goals, including the NFL record 66-yarder in Detroit, the hero in Denver. And as Kadri Ishmael, he quote retweeted that summer, and he said, Justin Tucker's on-field legacy was a lock for the Ravens Ring of Honor and a good consideration for Pro Football Hall of Fame. And now, Bobby, the way everything has gone since the offseason, that puts all of that into question. It puts all of that into question.
Not to mention, we've already alluded to it a million times, but not to mention universally beloved. That number 9 jersey can be seen everywhere in this town. And when you think about the Royal Farms visibility as somebody who's endorsed that company and been a spokesman for that company for years, when you think about the other commercials, when you think about the opera singing, when you just think about Justin the person, I'm sure we both have individual memories, personal memories of the time that we shared with him in various locker room settings and media availabilities. Justin was incredibly kind to me. And it's why there's just such a great feeling of conflict surrounding this entire thing. It's a very conflicting feeling. And obviously you just kind of sit and wait for the NFL to officially release whatever findings they have, assuming that there will be some findings from this investigation, Sarah, that is at this point really just lingering. It's been multiple months. Think about it. The statement that Justin put out that you referenced earlier on, where he, unequivocally denies the allegations put forth by the massage therapists and the Baltimore Banner. That was January 30th. Think about that. The season had just ended. The Super Bowl had not even been played. We hadn't even turned the page to February yet. That's how long this has been lingering. So, by the way, Kadri's name makes me think.
Yeah.
Kadir's getting a run with the Las Vegas Raiders right now.
Yeah, I saw that.
He was just featured in one of their videos. It's funny. It goes from like Max Crosby to Kadir Ismail. And Kadri tweeted about it, which was super cool. Kadir, of course, spent some of last summer with the Ravens organization. I believe they reached an injury settlement at some point in season. But Kadir's undrafted journey continues, and he's out with the Vegas Raiders right now, which is a brand new kind of run organization, right? With Pete Carroll at the helm there. Hard to believe that he is still coaching, getting another chance in this league. The great Pete Carroll, who won a title with Russell Wilson and everybody in Legion of Boom with Seattle. So best of luck to Kadir.
I swear on my life, Bobby, if he becomes the next Darren Waller story, where the Ravens had like this absolute gem on their practice squad, and then the Raiders came over and stole him. If Kadir becomes that guy, I'm going to be ticked, because it would even be worse because he's the son of a Ravens legend.
He's the son of a Ravens legend, and my gosh, is he built. This dude is, what is he, 6'5", 6'6", something crazy like that. When Kadri puts up family photos, I'm always shocked because he's towering over everybody, including his father.
And his father's no shrimp.
And his father is no shrimp. He's still built like an ox, too, but swings a heck of a golf club, I got to tell you. DJ Bowflex gets us started with Super Chats. I love you. We got to get around in at some point here soon. DJ Bowflex says he's back.
Kadri's in the chat. He says Darren Waller part 2. You know his dad wants that. You know he wants it.
Wait, he's saying part 3.
Oh, part 3. I don't know. Who's the other one?
I don't
Who
know.
else did the Raiders steal from the Ravens?
I don't know.
Let us know, Q.
Let's
Sorry,
see.
I interrupted that super chat. We got to give him his due.
Well, I mean, DJ just proclaiming he's back. He want everybody to know, I'm back, like Steph Curry, baby. That famous meme. Welcome back, DJ. Hope everything's good. Dre Dog 679, Sarah.
Colecchio Semele. That one, I guess, is a little bit different because the Ravens just didn't re-sign him. They knew who they had. The Raiders just came and I'm talking about these guys were taken off the practice squad.
From a practice, wasn't it like a preseason game and he had unbelievable workout on the field?
Yeah, that's exactly it. They're like, who's that guy working out? So since then, the Ravens don't let their practice squad guys practice on field in front of other teams.
That's awesome. So, I think that's when John Gruden was with the organization. I think he actually tells the story, if memory serves.
Yeah.
And obviously his media career is blossoming right now, but he's a great storyteller. And I think I'm remembering that correctly.
Dre Dog says, not saying Justin did anything. However, fellas, we must have sexual discipline out here. Far too much to lose.
Dre Dog and I had a good conversation about that actually last night. He does a lot of life coaching, so that was enlightening.
Dre Dog, life coach?
Yeah, he's a life coach. He's got a bunch of different gigs down there in South Carolina, including the hashtag Bobby SC. He's recruiting me heavily.
Nice.
He also writes, Loop better be ready. This fan base is no joke. Look out. Especially they have been treated. I think it is no hyperbole to say this fan base has been spoiled for a long time at the kicker position. That's for sure.
And his best case scenario is to be, speaking purely football wise, the next Justin Tucker, where he becomes the hero, where Justin Tucker was kind of losing games last year with his leg. If Loop could come around and win some games, especially Bobby, this is like another Super Bowl kind of run, right? And you're going to need a guy that's going to be reliable when the pressure is on the most. So it's going to be on, especially in the playoffs. It's going to be on.
Kobe Pruitt.
The Kelsey incident was the beginning of the end. Oof.
Everybody remembers that prior to the AFC Championship game at the bank. Liv writes, hashtag Bobby New Mexico. Come get you some New Mexico green chili.
Oh, I would love some Mexican food right now.
Thanks, Liv. I don't believe
food.
So first of all, Mexican food generally does not agree with me. I do not agree. Goes both ways.
So bad for you, bro.
But Liv, you can add New Mexico to the list. I don't believe that's a new one. That's a new entry. Thank you. How about Park Heights, Sarah? Park Heights Profit with yet another dump of a super chat. And I mean a nice little chunk of change, but there's meaning to it. I'll let you take it.
I'm looking it up right now just so I can have it ready. He says,
you do that.
You read it and I'll get the scripture.
I got you.
Okay.
Park Heights, as he's done in the last couple of weeks, is checking in. And he's got the amount to reflect Isaiah 43, 8 and 19. We thank Tucker for the memories, but this was the needed move. Plenty we could conjecture, but the future is here now. Hashtag Loop Troop, LOL, Park Heights. Thank you. And what Bible verse is this?
Okay, so Isaiah 43, 18 through 19 says, remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Talking about the coming of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Park Heights Prophet. That orange slide, that orange banner means you just dropped a nugget on us. Kobe Pruitt writes, the blueprint to beat elite quarterbacks in the playoffs is to generate an interior pass rush and get the quarterback off their spot. With our losses on the interior, it feels like we're light on depth behind Nnamdi Madubuike.
I will say this. I hear you. I definitely still think they need to get a nose tackle that replaces specifically Michael Pierce. I do feel like Michael Pierce was a little bit more of a run stuffer. Yeah. I mean, he could get a little pressure on the quarterback, but Peebles is more known for that, but he is a 6th-round draft pick, right? And so, but they also need to get a run stuffer in there, I do believe. So I'm mostly right there with Kobe.
Got a couple, at least one that we mentioned yesterday, and now his name just escapes me, but there is at least one defensive tackle that was one of the 17 invites for undrafted rookies that's going to have a chance to compete this offseason. So Nate Thomas, for you.
Does JT not retiring mean he thinks he can play? Well, I bet I'm sure he wants to. Listen, if I'm Justin Tucker, this is not how I want things to end. You have to have some sort of hope that life can move on. And so I'm sure he hopes that he will still get a chance. That being said, him retiring the day, I mean, it hasn't even been 24 hours since they announced it. So if he were going to retire, I wouldn't expect it to come in the first 24 hours of the announcement of him being cut.
No. Appreciate you, Nate. Heather McCubbin says, Bobby and Sarah, which rookie are you calling right now as your breakout player? I know yours.
It's hard not to go. Well, shoot. You could pick either of the top 2 picks. Like how is Malachi's going to have the biggest opportunity? But boy, do I want it from Mike Green. Woo.
Yeah.
I just took both of the top 2. Sorry, Bobby. You can choose.
No, I mean, I was going to try and differentiate regardless. And I think I've kind of already said it. I'm going to go with Buchanan. I'm going to go with Teddy Buchanan, the linebacker out of Cal. I think he's going to have a chance to show what he's about. It's going to start on special teams. And, that might mean that I don't know what that means. I don't know what this prediction necessarily means for Trenton Simpson.
I was going to say, like when you say breakout, I don't think a breakout means that he's a special teams ace. To me, it would have to be on offense or defense.
Oh, agreed. But he's going to start. He's going to start as a teamer.
But if you say he's going to, I'm just clarifying here. You feel like eventually he's going to start at linebacker in his rookie year. Eventually,
I just think there's going to be a rotation. I just think he's going to find his way, and he's going to be knocking on the door. This dude's a thumper. So if I have to differentiate between the top 2 picks, I'll go Buchanan, and hopefully it's not. Again, I'm not sure what this prediction means for Trenton Simpson, but hopefully it is a rotation of sorts. I'll go with him.
Okay.
Dre Dog says, yes, Sarah, I'm an accountant and certified life coach. Did you do something with your hair?
Not recently. Not recently. I mean, you always go get it retouched up and colored, but I feel like that was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I feel like people notice things more when I'm wearing pink. Must be a color that brings out stuff in my hair or my complexion or stuff like that. But I usually get more comments when I'm wearing a shade of pink.
Let me take a close look.
Take a close. What are you looking at? My pink or my hair?
People have been commenting on your makeup and your hair. So I'm just looking at it.
I definitely think that it's like the pink that's bringing it out a little bit more. I do have like a new lip gloss. Maybe that's doing it. So like a shinier lip gloss. Is that part of it?
Man, I think you look like you usually do.
That's what I thought.
Which is very presentable. How about that?
You're very presentable with your mustache over there.
It's always funny. I always enjoy just like the surprise of coming on and people are observing us, right? What we're wearing from like halfway through our chest and up. That's all you see what we're doing.
Yeah.
And, but if there's any differences in appearances, whether it's haircuts or makeup or facial hair in this case, it's always funny to see that right off the top. I can't rock facial hair. This is the closest thing I can do. So why not have a little bit of fun?
I like the mustache trend right now. And it's probably because my dad always had a mustache, like always since I knew him.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
Love him. Even though he never wants to talk to me.
He never wants to talk to anybody, Bobby. He also doesn't want to be seen. What was the line he used? My dad loves to sit and listen. He'll sit and listen for hours. Well, I invited him. We were not live, but I invited him to come on camera and come and talk to you because he was talking off camera. He's like, no, Bobby doesn't want to see a walking corpse.
Yeah, that was what it was.
My dad is 89, so.
Meanwhile, Grandma Sue's like, let's let it rip. I'm going to sit in this chair and chat your
My
ear off.
mom's hey, like, let me in that chair. Get out of there.
Yeah. Yep. And I love it. I absolutely love it when she does. Both have tons of wisdom in their respective ways.
Yeah.
Nate just clarified a past super chat that he dropped in earlier and says retiring instead of being cut, wants to play different team. Not sure the point here, but Nate was one of the call-ins yesterday. And I think we both agreed that should Justin be cleared or should Justin still be interested in playing after potential punishment, does he still have more left in the tank? I am of the belief that answer is yes. And I think another team, as we've already discussed, if you can help out another team, they are going to be willing in most cases to bring you on. I'm not sure what the point is aside from that. I'm just trying to figure out. Hey, Nate, you don't have a shortage on characters.
Yeah,
right?
you can.
You're commenting as if you got like a 30 character limit.
30 character limit, yeah.
Yeah. So, Drew J checking in with a super chat this afternoon.
He says, Dre Dog, where are you at in South Carolina? I'm in Columbia by William Bryce Stadium. Link up, dummy.
That's awesome. A little bit of Baltimore lingo in there as well. Kobe hits us with another one. Does Starks start at free safety? If so, does that mean Ardarius only gets on big nickel if that's our base and sits when we switch to nickel and dime?
I think by at least the second quarter of the season, I say yes, Starks becomes a starter. I don't he could maybe week 1, but we haven't even seen him. We've seen him do some drills in rookie minicamp. So I would think that he might be on like a Nate Wiggins type plan where like they slowly make him become a starter. Just because they have the luxury of doing that when you have Ardarius and you have Kyle Hamilton. But I think eventually, yes, he starts at free safety. And yes, I do think that means that Ardarius is more in on big nickel. But again, everybody's interchangeable. But I see Ardarius more by the end of the season coming in on 3 safety sets rather than being more of a staple like he was at the end of last year.
Nate clarifies his super chat. He's about to hop into a doctor's appointment, so he's trying to be direct. It's all good. We appreciate you for listening to the show from the literal doctor's office. And here is, or maybe from the waiting room. I don't know what you're doing in there, but Nate says, so if he retired rather than being cut, then his legacy would have been better. But obviously he waited it out and risked being cut. Does that mean he wants to? Okay, I got you. Does that mean he wants to be playing for a different team or still in the NFL? Yeah, I mean, that would suggest, Sarah, that he feels like he's got plenty left to give.
Yeah, I think he definitely wants to keep trying to play. Yeah. And he knew all this was going on, and he was in the Ravens building like pretty much nonstop. Like he is determined to try to like rectify his legacy and his reputation. That's what I am interpreting his actions as being.
You and me both. Liv enlightening us here on something. Character. Okay, I did not.
Oh, there is a character limit.
I stand corrected. Character limit is based on the super chat. $2 equals 50 characters. Now,
I was going to say, because Prophet had a super long super chat, but he paid like $48, whatever the exact number was.
Okay.
So, these are things we're learning.
Thank you for educating us. Appreciate you. And Dre Dog is communicating with Drew. Drew is communicating with Dre via super chat.
He says, yo, I'm right outside Columbia too. Let's link, dummy.
If that happens, we got to know about it. Just like Manny and Mike linking up for the Houston pregame tailgate on, what was that, Christmas Day, right? Yeah, it was Ravens-Texans on Christmas Day. Appreciate you guys for being with us. Super chats are rolling in. Great viewership so far, over 2,000 concurrents at this moment. Tila, please like the video, subscribe. We hit that 24,000 subscription mark yesterday, so thank you. Let's get to that 25,000 number next and be halfway to 50. What else? There's a pinned comment right now in the live chat. If you click that link, we would love for you to give us some feedback on what we're tallying up and providing our designer for the first ever March Vault merch line. So basically, we got a poll up there right now. There's a comment section where you can drop in some feedback. We would love for you to do so. It's been our goal all off season long to get this merch line in order, and that's exactly what we've done over the last few months. So more to come on that, and I will hand it off to you for Howie and EDC, a couple of heavy hitters.
Howie Roseman, GM of the Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles put out almost like a 20-minute video. I thought it was pretty cool. Of showing what was going inside their war room. I don't know if they call it war room. That's what they call it in Owings Mills, but their draft room. And what they showed in the first round is that Howie was frantically trying to trade up in the first round. He called several GMs, Bobby, several GMs, including Eric DaCosta. And every time he got turned down, the frustration in the room was more and more palpable. And so I just thought this was very interesting. His conversation, you can't hear Eric on the other end, but we have everything Howie's doing, and you can see how frustrated he is with his boss sitting right next to him in, is it Jeffrey Lurie, right? Jeffrey Lurie is their owner?
Correct.
So let's go inside their war room.
Hey, buddy. Any interest in moving back? Do you want stuff this year, or would you look at next year? Yep. Walking in here. Okay. Elevator music.
That's mad.
Say it's got something better. Come on.
Nobody wants to trade down.
Well,
Acting like they have better
everyone's
trades,
saying
but
they are trading down,
No,
but
they
nobody is trading down. I don't know what to tell you, Jeffrey. I'm trying.
I know.
I'm trying. I'm trying. And I'm trying. And one more thing. I'm trying.
Boy, what a tough seat to sit in when your owner's to your left and he's staring at you and you're staring back at him with no answers because Eric DaCosta is standing 10 toes down on the other line, on the other side of that phone call, isn't he?
Oh, why'd you have to say 10 toes down? I was enjoying this segment until you brought that in.
You already know. Trigger phrase, entered in any chance I get. That's an awesome behind the scenes look right there.
So cool. And I'm glad that Philadelphia put it out there. I mean, Howie was being stonewalled, okay? He was stonewalled by Eric. He was stonewalled by others. But I want to make this clear. If you watch the full video, it seems clear to me that he was not trying to trade up to get Malachi Starks. And the reason why I say that is because he tried to trade up before the Ravens, he tried to trade with the Ravens, and then he tried 2 or 3 times after the Ravens. So if it was Malachi Starks and he was gone, I think he would have stopped trying to trade up. That's my guess. And on top of it, once they did make their pick, they ended up getting a trade, but it was one spot up. They got all the way up to 31 from number 32. And they took inside linebacker Jihad Campbell. And once they did, he had this big sigh of relief, and his owner comes over and he's like, "Hey, staying patient worked. We got our guy in the end." And he goes, "Yeah, well, we were kind of forced to stay patient." Like, clearly in that clip, we see that he was not being patient. He talking about how much he's waiting. Somebody had elevator music. I don't know. It was right after, I don't know if it was with Eric or right after Eric's call or whatnot, but I thought it was absolutely hilarious that somebody put him on hold and gave him an elevator. You're the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles, just won a Super Bowl. You're proposing a trade up, and whoever was on the other end put you on hold and gave you elevator music. So I honestly do think in the end, they got their man, but it was still hilarious to see Eric and others just be like, "Nah, we're not helping out the Super Bowl champs. We're good."
Nick Sirianni referred to that music as maddening.
Maddening.
You listen to that long enough, it becomes maddening. It starts
Yeah.
to brainwash you.
Yeah.
It starts to drive you crazy.
Yes. And by the way, Jeff Zrebiec had watched that video, and he had tweeted somewhere over the weekend that he thinks that if Malachi Starks wasn't there, he thinks that the Ravens would have traded back. So even though the Eagles weren't trying to move up to get Malachi, I think it's pretty clear. And Eric had said that he had gotten phone calls. He said plural. So I don't know that, Howie was the only guy that called him. But Eric wanted Malachi. And I do think that says a lot, Bobby, because there is another clip. There was 2 clips that we never really got to when Eric DaCosta was on the Lounge, the podcast for the Ravens team website. Yeah, there it is with Jeff. He says, good chance Ravens would have traded back with Eagles if Starks wasn't there. They didn't want to move off of him, though. They wanted Malachi. They wanted him. And as much as Eric likes extra picks, Bobby, he was not willing to lose Malachi for extra picks. Now, back to this idea with how much he loves extra picks. When he was on the Lounge, Eric DaCosta, he was asked, you had 11 picks. You already admitted before the draft that probably all 11 won't make the team. So why not trade up? Like, why not trade up? And Eric basically laid out his draft philosophy. And I think people in Baltimore hate it because they want to see Eric DaCosta trade up more for people that they like. But this clip went viral outside of Baltimore. I saw so many other team reporters being like, Eric gets it. Eric gets it. Eric knows how to do the draft, this and that. So maybe it's one of those classic things where it's like the grass is always greener on the other side. But here he is outlining why he wants as many picks as humanly possible.
There was really, for me, an important study called The Loser's Curse by Richard Thaler, economist, and Cade Massey, the professor at Penn now. And the idea of it basically is that teams simply don't do any better drafting than anyone else. You're all going to be about the same. And basically that the draft is inherently sort of a luck-driven process. Now, I don't believe that, but there is an element of luck involved. So if you think about that and if you accept that premise, then you're trading up for a player that you think is better than anyone else, right? And you think that team's going to draft him.
Right.
But most of the time, they're not going to draft that player. And so what we've seen over the years is that player is probably going to fall to you. And could he be selected? Yes, but there's no guarantees that that player is going to be better than the player that you end up getting.
Yeah.
So they call it the loser's curse because the team at the top, it's like, oh, he's got the first pick in the draft. Well, you know what? The player that they select, we've seen this many times. There's no guarantees that that player is going to be better than the player that gets selected at 25 or 30 in the first round. All things being equal, right? The fact that no one really knows who's going to be better than anyone else, the only rational approach is to get more at-bats,
right?
Is to pick more. But for me, the idea of having more picks means I have the chance of getting more players. If I have the chance of getting more players, then I have a better chance of finding more players that can play than my opponents.
So did you get that, Bobby, of why it's called a loser's curse?
I just don't know how anybody would take issue with that. If you can take your emotions out of it with the players that you're targeting, the players that you've been studying, and you realize how important at-bats are, swings are, I don't know how you could be mad at that.
Especially in the later rounds where it's just like it's like a lottery ticket. Like we know the percentages. He laid it out. In the 4th round, you have about a 20 to 25% chance of finding a contributor in the 4th round. In the 6th round, you have about 12% chance of finding a contributor in the 6th round. And so when you have just a 10 to 12% chance, like, why not get more lottery tickets? That's basically, now in the 1st round, you kind of want to get it right more often. Like the chances obviously go up. But I loved what he said. He explained why the book was called Loser's Curse. And this is an economist. This is people that are not in the draft. They're just looking at things through data outside the draft, outside looking in. And basically what they found through the data is it's a curse to be a loser because A, you're a loser. And B, being at the top, he's saying, isn't guaranteed to have a better player than he said, like, say, number 30. And how many times have we seen the Browns, who are consistently in the top 10, just flush away these top 10 picks, just time after time after time. Whereas the Ravens, whether it was Ozzie or Eric, nail it in the late 20s or early 30s, just time and time and time again. And so that's why he's saying there's no guarantee if I do move up that the guy I thought was great would have ended up being great. And the guy that would have fallen to me would have been way worse. Meanwhile, I'm trading away other lottery tickets that I could be having in the later rounds. So as much as he loves those lottery tickets, though, he believed in Malachi Starks enough that he would not move back with Howie Roseman. All right, one last topic on this Eric DeCosta. Bobby, we didn't have time to get into this, but I find this fascinating. So on day 3, when everything finished up, Eric DeCosta had mentioned that they were considering drafting a quarterback on day 3. So Garrett Downing is like, you know what? I'm going to follow up on this. Let me see if I can get a name. I mean, Eric DeCosta seems to be in a sharing mood now that the draft is over. Let's see if we can get a name out of him. He didn't give a name, but he did give a challenge, and we are accepting this challenge. Let's see what he challenged us to do.
Liked, of course, a couple of quarterbacks went in the division. Shedeur Sanders went to the Browns. Will Howard went to the Steelers on day 3. I'm curious, are you willing to share who you were thinking about drafting at quarterback as a backup on day 3?
I mean, I think there was a couple guys we liked. One guy in particular that we liked on day 3. I mean, you could go back and you could look at it and see all those guys that were drafted on day 3, and then, try to figure it out. But there was definitely one guy that we thought was kind of interesting as a day 3 pick, and we talked about it, and he got picked. But
okay, Bobby Trossett. He said they would have picked a quarterback on day 3, which could be rounds 4 through 7. Okay. But he had been picked when they were considering him. He said, you can go look at the day 3 quarterbacks and try to figure this out. So I went to NFL.com and I filtered to quarterbacks, and I got all the day 3 quarterbacks. What is that? What are you doing over there? What's that body language? Why are you laughing?
It cracks me up how willing you were to go deep dive. I'm following along. I'm curious to hear your prediction.
You don't want to know? I want to know I want you to, let's do this together. Okay. First of all, he's saying they would have done it, but he was picked. Do you agree we could take out the 7th rounders? Like, if he wanted a quarterback, he could have used one of his many 6th rounders, correct?
Take the 7th out. Yep.
Take 7th out. Okay. Now, that leaves one round 5 pick, which is Shedeur Sanders, the Browns. And then they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rounders that were picked. I have a hard time thinking that it was one of the later 6 rounders because they had a gazillion 6-round picks. And so, like, if you wanted a guy, you would have been fine expending a 6-rounder, right? And so if it was a 6-rounder, I have to believe it would have been in the range of Kyle McCord, that was the 5th pick in the 6th round, or the 9th pick in the 6th round. To me, I'm taking out those other 6-rounders. What about you?
I probably would go with Will Howard.
Will Howard, I think, is definitely a possibility.
That's probably, if I'm looking at this list and I'm considering the fact of the 6th round and the positioning and what Eric said and sort of who they've shown interest in when it comes to backups in recent seasons, not only with just the signing of Cooper Rush, but there was some interest, wasn't there, about Baker Mayfield several years ago before he landed in Tampa. Maybe there, I don't know if interest is the right word on Tannehill, but there was at least discussions within the fan base on Tannehill. I'll go Will Howard out of Ohio State, championship winner.
I'm fine with that pick. I think that would be number 2 on my list. You know who my number 1 is. You know who I think it was. You're going
Shedeur?
I'm going Shedeur.
Oh, man.
And maybe it's partly because I wanted them to pick Shedeur. Once he started falling, again, I was out of pocket. I was off doing birthday and baptism stuff on Saturday. But I remember I said to you Friday night, even when it was through day 2, when he was falling on day 2, I was like, shoot, the Ravens should draft him, because I'm always concerned about the Ravens backup and what they could do if Lamar Jackson were to go down. Knock on wood, he's been healthy the last 2 years. Let's keep it that way. I would have loved Shedeur because, number one, I think what other teams were nervous about or potentially nervous about with his dad, I don't think the Ravens needed to be nervous about, because they know Dion, and Dion has such a tremendous respect for Ozzie Newsome and the Ravens organization that I don't think he would have tried to come in and run over anybody. I don't think he would do that to any team, quite frankly, like run over them, but I really don't think he would have done that to the Ravens. And I think that with having Lamar Jackson being the top quarterback, it would have been less of a circus, because so like for the Browns, obviously there's going to be clamoring for him to win the number one spot, the starting role. And if anybody even stumbles for a second, there's going to be calls to put Shedeur in. Whereas in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, there's no questioning. He's the number one guy. The only way Shedeur would be getting in is if there's an injury. And then he'd have to beat out Cooper Rush. But like, he could have been a long-term potential answer. And I think he for sure could have beat out Devin Leary, right? Later in the clip, Eric DeCosta expressed that they do still have confidence in Devin Leary, but not enough to say, hey, we're not going to pick a day 3 guy. So I'm not ruling out Will Howard, but I'm definitely not ruling out Shedeur Sanders. I think he would have been a great pick in Baltimore. I would have loved having him here.
I think it would have been a disaster.
Ah!
I think it would have been disastrous. The one issue with the scenario that I have that you just outlined is that Shedeur wants to play right away. Shedeur does want that Cleveland situation. Maybe he didn't want that team. Maybe he didn't want all these quarterbacks in that room, but he wants to play right away.
For sure he does. Every quarterback does.
Absolutely.
But so he's got no room to talk when you have the MVP, a 2-time MVP ahead of you.
Precisely. It'd still be a distraction. But I'm talking about from his perspective, Sarah. Why would he want to come to Baltimore?
Doesn't matter. It was a draft. He was falling.
Well, guess what, though? Deion Sanders, absolutely, whether you like it or not, was controlling the narrative in terms of where he went throughout the
Deion Sanders would not have been like, you're not going to the Ravens. We're forget this. You're not playing for a year.
Just saying. He had a great influence on a lot of that throughout the pre-draft process, and he made major headlines well before the pre-draft process even started in terms of where he wants his sons to go and not go.
Even if I granted you that, because I do think you put a little bit more emphasis on that than needed, although I do think there was some influence for sure. I do think that maybe you're playing it up, but that's my opinion. Even if I granted you that, do you see how I'm laying it out, how it's different for Baltimore?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course. Is it less of a distraction there because nobody's calling for Lamar's job? Yes.
And the respect he has for Ozzie and the organization, Dion.
But I just think it would be unnecessary. You know what? Something Nuno Alves in our chat, and now because everybody's commenting on it, I lost it. There's a lot of different comments in there. Nuno just said something really interesting. Do you think Eric DeCosta is lying about this too?
Well, I mean, there's always that possibility. I mean, he said it the night of the draft, and then he reiterated it again. I'll say this. When Eric DeCosta lies, it's usually for a reason. What would be the reason to pretend that you were thinking of drafting a quarterback when you're what message did that send to your quarterbacks that's currently on the roster? I think there's only a downside to admitting that. What's the benefit of lying in this situation?
Just throwing it out there as a hypothetical.
Well, but do you think he was lying?
Well, I can't think of a positive, so
right,
I can't confidently say that he is.
Right.
But I've also been really confused in the past with Eric, most recently with the analytical lie that he gave, where I was kind of scratching my head. What the heck did they move around with the 4th and the 5th or the 5th and the 6th or whatever the heck it was? Oh, no, he just made it up.
But you see the benefit to that lie, at least.
Yes.
Yeah. That he's covering himself with a weird trade.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. One last question for you before we move on. You think it would have been a disaster. I think it would have been glorious. Okay. But
yeah, for the record, I'm going Will Howard.
But real quick, do you think, even though you think it would have been a disaster, do you think they were considering Shedeur? Do you think that's a possibility? Like I'm saying Will Howard is a possibility?
No.
You don't even think it's a possibility?
No, I don't. No, I don't think.
Oh
I don't think should. No.
You're crazy. I need to know the answer to this. I need to know the answer to this.
How much deeper are you going to dig?
I don't know. Maybe I can email EDC. Just keep it
I can tell you really want to find a way to dig.
Maybe he'll like feel more at ease of saying it in like 10 years. Maybe in 10 years, like if we ever get an interview, I'll be like, hey, I just need to go back 10 years. Maybe 5
And
years.
we should keep a Google Doc of things that need to be addressed that can be easily forgotten.
That's right. We do. We do.
It's good stuff, though. Chat,
Yeah.
where you at? Which quarterback was he referring to? If he indeed was telling the truth, which quarterback? I've seen a lot of comments. Good exercise. Appreciate you guys for being here. Over 2,100 concurrents. Should we get to some super chats before quick hits?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Let's see.
Get us caught up here, Bob.
Gosh, yeah, there's quite a few. Where the heck did we leave off?
I
We
still
left
think some
off-
Justin Tucker ones were coming on once we finished the last round.
We left off with Dre Dog, which means that Chris Long gets us started back up. And he says, is Justin Tucker now eliminated from Ring of Honor consideration?
I think it's likely, but sometimes like time changes things.
Yep.
So maybe not, but at this point, it feels a little unlikely.
Yep. Mike, for you.
He said, "Don't let Howie cook." Hashtag Bobby Houston.
And just to add on to that, I'm with you. Yeah. Well, sorry. Two different thoughts in my mind. Give Mike his due for a super chat. Now recruiting me to Houston. So we have New Mexico, Houston, South Carolina, and a few others on the table. Appreciate you, Mike. Appreciate the call last night as well. He was one of the call-ins. And then just to say, yeah, I think right now, obviously, well, it's like a recency bias right now. But to your point, time heals a lot, and we have no clue what the findings will be, if any at all, from the NFL's investigation. So I don't know how we can say one way or the other, in terms of confidence. But good question, Chris. Kobe Pruitt.
Is this team better than the one upset by KC in 23? I feel like that's going to depend on Malachi and Mike Green.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they have lingering issues defending the big play, there's not a chance that. And I know King Henry wasn't on that team,
right?
But that offense was still historic. But what was really historic about that year was the trifecta and Mike McDonald's defense. So I have a hard time saying that before we get a good look at what the secondary ends up being this year. What I say, Junior, also a channel member, also somebody who called in last night. Bobby, keep the stash. You saw me yesterday. I did. I got a beard. If you go stash, I'll match you, LOL. It's good to know. I have a fellow stash brother.
My husband has had a beard, and he grows a nice beard for a year. And out of nowhere, he shaved it off on Saturday night, and I'm still adjusting. He looks handsome either way, but it's still like a big adjustment when all of a sudden it's like the majority of your face has been hidden for like a year, behind that beard.
He's got sharp facial hair.
Yeah, he's good.
It's just it's thick. There's a certain level of it's dense. It's thick. Yeah. Looks good.
Very, very handsome either way.
JL Green is with you on your Shador prediction.
Yeah, he says Sarah gets it. Clapping emoji. Shador Sanders would fit, baby. There we go, JL Green.
In what world, JL? In what world would he fit as a backup in Baltimore?
He fit in this world. Oh, I've already laid it out for you.
Adam78 says Sanders would have been on the practice squad here because the Ravens only keep 2 quarterbacks on the main roster. Well, he could be. What's the rule?
They kept 3.
What's that new rule though? You can keep.
Yeah, you do get to do something with the third quarterback. I can't remember what the rule is though. I know what you're talking about.
Isn't the rule that you can keep an active player technically as QB3, but he's on the practice squad, but he can be a game day elevation without
every week?
Yeah, without costing your roster construction for that day.
Yeah, it doesn't count as one of the call-ups from the practice squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we had to discuss these things because if you go back to 2022 and 2021, which ended poorly availability wise for Lamar, we had to memorize those things. It felt like every single year.
But even with that, and maybe I'm overvaluing Shador Sanders because he obviously fell to the 5th round. Even if he had that special designation on game days, he's still in a practice squad and could be stolen at any point to be on somebody's active. So it's true that the Ravens have recently only kept 2 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster, but there have been other years where they kept 3 the whole year.
Yeah. I think that was actually the years of Lamar, Trace McSorley, and then who the heck was
RG3
and RG3.
Yeah,
that's what it was. That's a crazy quarterback room. Think about that. RG3 is now He just accepted the number 2 position, by the way, for Fox Sports. He's going to be a game analyst back in the booth, which is exciting for him. And I don't know if it's college football or I can't remember if it was college football or NFL, but regardless, he's back after ESPN let him go. I'm sure there was a non-compete that he had to wait out there. And then Trace McSorley's now on the Penn State football roster staff. I think he's like a quarterback's coach or an assistant to James Franklin. So NFL career didn't work out for him. He did go to a couple different stops after Baltimore, but that's what are they? Where are they now? That's that. Olu, for you.
So did Archie Manning work out for them? Dion would have loved his son here, could have sat down and learned. Know for sure if he couldn't start now, the Ravens would have been the spots. Dion eyed.
And Deshaun says, feels like when mom and dad are fighting but don't want to argue in front of the kids. Oh, you think it was a toned down one? Maybe compared to...
I definitely feel like I'm trying to learn from my past mistakes.
We can still let it rip in here, and we will.
We did a little bit, just more respectfully.
Be a good bet.
And I did, and I'm trying to take advice to let you finish your sentences.
Oh, thanks. That'll be good.
Gee, thanks for letting me finish my thoughts.
There'll be much more back and forth to come.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys for being here. Let's get to some quick hits before we jump. You brought this in just on the signing of the new potential Patrick McCarry replacement.
Yeah, just right before they announced the Justin Tucker news, the Ravens announced and put out this picture of the new offensive tackle, swing tackle, Joe Noteboom from the Rams. He's officially signed with the Ravens. He was in the building, put ink to paper.
And speaking of signings, Deontay Johnson did exactly that with the Cleveland Browns. We know within the last week or so, it's a 1-year deal. It's veteran minimum. No surprise. Cleveland's not about to take a big risk here. $1.17 million. Does not include any guaranteed money for him. It's zero risk, as Field notes here. And yeah, he's got to reestablish a lot. Like, the value is there, you would think, in terms of what he can provide you on field. But what the heck comes with all of that? Well, he's got a lot of questions to answer, as we all watched, and as Carolina watched, and as Houston watched. What was the other one? Was it? I guess it all started with Pittsburgh, right?
Well, it was Pittsburgh, Carolina, Baltimore, Houston, and now Browns. And listen, Phil Yates says it's a zero risk deal for Cleveland, which is true. That's advisable. That's good. But that's true financially. What he can do inside the locker room, I think all these teams have learned pretty quickly.
Correct.
So, oof.
Correct.
Good luck to all involved.
No doubt. He goes to the Browns. And in other AFC North divisional news, Paul Dehner covers the Cincinnati Bengals. And he wrote that, oh my goodness gracious. Talk, bro. I'm going to tell a story in a second, which will explain why I'm a little slow today. But since he has reduced the final, we just got a new channel member. What's up, Deshaun? We'll get you some love in a second. Cincinnati's reduced the final year of Geno Stone, that is, original contract, by $1.58 million with a pay cut. He did not play well last year, which of course was his first year, Sarah, after leaving in free agency to join the Bengals. And Paul goes on to wonder, he'd like to know what saving that $1.58 million will provide versus embarrassing the starting safety you're depending upon with no alternative. Ouch.
I mean, 1.5 really isn't a lot, but I don't know. Or maybe they're tight against the cap too. But
you get a yikes.
Yeesh.
I like that guy too, man. I wish the best for Geno, but that's tough.
By the way, just backing up real quick, one more thought over here on Deontay. This goes back to my point, and I will make it over and over and over again. If the team thinks that you can help them win games, they will put up with an awful lot. And that's why I always put football above drama. But as soon as your performance goes down enough and the drama comes up enough, then that's when your luck runs out.
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson is proof of that yet again.
Yep. This is Exhibit A for sure. Speaking of an exhibit, DeAndre Hopkins looked exactly like that last night. The Met Gala.
Nice
D-Hop rocking. What's that?
Nice transition, sir.
Yeah, thank you. He's rocking his all black. You know, you and me we're not going to get into the, we're not in the business of trying to evaluate outfits and style. But to me, he's rocking a cloak-like black trench coat-esque type thing. And he's got a black undershirt. He's looking clean. He's looking mean. and he's at the Met Gala, as many current players were, like a Joe Burrow, like many others last night.
I feel like the more high-end the style, the more and more I get lost, which just shows that I have little to no style.
Yes.
And finally, how about these two teammates who are always giving us entertainment on Twitter? Marlon Humphrey tweets, I'm going to give Kyle Hamilton one more time to not answer my call this offseason. So let me just pause there for a second, Bobby. This actually makes me feel better because I reached out via DM to both of these guys to come on our show draft night. Marlon was nice enough to respond and said, hey, I had fun with you last year, but this year I just haven't been following the draft. And he goes, so this time I'm going to step aside. Really appreciate the answer. Kyle, stonewalled the way EDC stonewalled Howie Roseman. Just stonewalled. Got no answer whatsoever. So it actually makes me feel better that his own teammate isn't getting through to Kyle. So Kyle responds on Twitter, automatic reply. Kyle is out of the office and will return training camp 2025. Sorry for the inconvenience.
These freaking
So now
guys,
we know.
man.
Now
These
we know.
guys. These two are really something. I love how Marlon's just so willing to overshare. I like a good overshare. You know that.
Yeah, you do.
Yes,
You
I
need-
do.
You,
And I'm
you
about
have
to do
something
it.
to identify with. Okay, wait. Are we ready? Can I tease this?
You can after 2 more super chats.
Okay, sounds good.
Deshaun became a new channel member of ours, so he's an official Voltron. We're coming up on our next goal is 150 channel members. We hit the 100 mark last week. So Deshaun, welcome. Appreciate the love. You guys can do the same by visiting the show notes, clicking on the link, becoming a channel member, or right below the video right now, depending on what platform you're watching this on, just go click that join button. We would love for you to support the channel. And JP Bug, Sarah.
People like the flashy stuff, but it's more like Note Boom. It's moves like Note Boom that give you depth to keep you in the playoffs. Excellent signing.
Maybe so.
I'd say it's an okay signing.
Maybe so.
He was available May 1 for a reason. I'll just say that. But you needed the depth, and they had him and George Fant and others in, and they felt like he had the most upside. So we'll see what
Tease
happens.
it.
Oh, so okay. Bobby and I, Mr. Robert Trossett and I, always have around 11 o'clock, between 11 and 11:15, a pre-show production meeting. And it usually always begins as I call Bobby. He picks up and he says, good morning. And I say, good morning. How are you? And usually he says, good. How are you? And it's like enthusiastic. But today I say, good. How are you? And he goes, well, I just may be a father. And I was like, what? I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, I'll tell you on the show after quick hits. So I've been waiting on pins and needles. I don't think that you're going to be an actual father, that there's a actual future Robert Francis Trossett Jr. on the way. So what are you talking about with this father business?
Needless to say, this is the end of the football discussion, folks. And we transition to Bobby After Dark. And in this case, this is literally Bobby After Dark. And for those wondering in the live chat, this was not the story that I told at the end of last night's 2-hour live stream about my Saturday night incident in Baltimore. I'll tell you that offline.
Okay.
We're going Bobby After Dark last night. Okay. This is where things stand. By the way, as much as I want to adopt without a missus in my life and just get my life started, not going to do that. Going to wait for her, then ultimately adopt at some point. I would love to, at least.
Okay.
I've talked about that before. As you know, I'm in a really good routine these days. It's an off-season thing. I typically can't keep up with this in season just because of the grind that comes with what we do. But I do 6 a.m. classes, meaning I'm getting up at 5:15, 5:20, somewhere around there, getting Tilly situated and off to F45. Last night, I was pretty pleased. I was in bed by well before 10. I probably wasn't asleep until about 9:45. My phone rang, and I just so happened to have the ringer set to the alarm clock ring, so it's the same. So when I get a phone call, same ring. When I get an alarm off, same ring.
Okay.
My alarm, which I thought was a phone call, what ended up being a phone call, was so loud that it woke me up out of a deep sleep an hour later. So at 10:45 last night, my phone rang. I didn't have it on Do Not Disturb, which was a mistake. And I look over in a state of panic. I had probably just reached like a REM cycle that was like of deep sleep.
Yeah.
And so not only is your heart racing, not only are you confused, but you're also just in this state of panic. And I look over to my nightstand and my phone reads campus police.
Campus from Loyola?
All it says is campus police.
Okay.
Now, I haven't changed my phone in a long time. I sync my contacts over whenever I do get a new iPhone, so on and so forth. So immediately in my head, what is going on with my brother, John, who is literally on his senior week right now, just finished classes. It's late at night. What is going on with my brother?
Yeah.
Literally 2 weeks out from graduation. This is all happening in like milliseconds, right? It's like in my mind, you're just starting to freak out. And to go to the T's, I felt like a father. I felt like a parent. So I race over to that cell phone. I pick it up. Hey, hello. Is everything all right? Mr. Trossett, sir, your 2006 Toyota Matrix is currently parked illegally in a non-permit zone outside of the library on campus.
You don't have a Toyota Matrix.
Loyola's campus? He's like, yes, sir. Sarah, my old car before the Bronco was a 2006 Toyota Matrix that I passed down to my brother.
Oh.
And he was at the library at friggin' 11 o'clock on a Monday night filling out his visa information because he had to go to the consulate in New York because he's doing a 2-month backpack in China, and he scared the you-know-what out of me. I thought he was dead on the side of the road. I felt like a parent in that moment. I felt like a parent since he moved to Baltimore. I ripped him this morning. I ripped him last night. That's my story for you. He's okay. That's what happened. Papa Bobby. Bobby
Okay.
Papa.
I have two different reactions. Number one, I get why you ripped him. Park legally, sir, with my car, my old car. And I get why you felt like a father in terms of, getting crazy phone calls and you're worried about him and this and that. But I will say this felt like a leading headline that you gave me. It was a little bit leading. Like you felt like a father from your brother being illegally parked. Like I definitely thought maybe your dog was pregnant or like you'd be a dad to a new puppy or something like that. Like that was not at all where I thought the story was going at all based off of the tease you gave me.
Just to be clear,
yes,
what I really meant was the feeling of actually thinking there was something seriously wrong when I look over and see that campus police is calling me. It's late at night. Maybe they weren't able to get a hold of a different family member. It's senior week. You know, the debauchery that tends to happen around that time for college students around the country, right? And it's just like, oh man, that moment of just sheer panic that something terrible happened. That's all.
Whenever I get a phone call from my kid's school, I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Like what's happening? Yes. I can identify with that.
Perhaps there was a little bit of
a little headline was maybe a little bit of clickbait.
A little spice. Okay. A little spice. We did get one other super chat from Darian Covington, which is an orange banner for the second time today. Let you take it.
Oh, I appreciate that, Darian. He says, I appreciate the passionate opinions and discussions between you two. It's refreshing when you hear opinions based on facts rather than some of the national shows where they argue just for the sake of arguing. All right.
Appreciate you, Darian. Thanks for the super chat. Everybody's feeling
By the way,
misled.
you got tomatoes and booze at you big time, bro.
Everybody's feeling misled. I don't buy it. That's hysterical. Patrons, a brand new one too. Lucid Valor just became a new patron of ours. She's choosing to support the show through Patreon, part of that community. It's a great way to do so. You get a monthly shout out attached to it as well. Patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. And then one of the OGs, Patrick York, that resets things. We go in chronological order in terms of when you became patron. So Sarah Kendall will be up tomorrow, but Patrick was the first patron years ago when we got this thing started. So thank you both. Appreciate all of you guys for being here on this Tuesday. Tomorrow, can I tease without mentioning the name, our guest tomorrow? With a tease or no?
How much information are you going to give?
Just what it marks, like the position of which he holds, what it marks.
It's a big time guest, but it's not from the Ravens.
All right, let's leave it at that. We got a big time guest coming up tomorrow at 12:30.
Yes.
And
big time guest.
I think you guys will appreciate the inside look that we're going to get on one of the newest Ravens. How's that?
There you go. I feel good about that.
All right. Appreciate you guys for being here. Appreciate all of you for participating. Hopefully you have by now. If you haven't already, on the way out, please click that link that's a pinned comment right now in the live chat. That'll get you what you need in terms of weighing in with your opinion on our new merch line that we're working on behind the scenes. So yeah. All good?
I need a hoodie and I need a tank top. I like to work out in the tank tops.
Okay.
So those are my 2 votes. And then come winter time, I'm gonna need a beanie maybe and a hat. So eventually we're gonna get all of these things though, right? Because I'm gonna need all of it.
I was gonna say, just to clarify what
My
we said
whole
earlier
wardrobe's
on.
gonna be the vault stuff from now on. Once we get this,
Right? Let's
the
go.
whole wardrobe.
Let's go.
Yeah.
At the top of the show, we just we just said it. We'll say it again, that it doesn't necessarily mean that not all 4 of these options won't be provided, right? Which is what you're getting at too.
Right. Like eventually.
They may very well be. We just
It's
want to
like
get
what do
off
we
to a
what do
good
we
start.
focus on first?
Yep, we want to get off to a good start. We're taking the advice of our designer. She's been great to work with, and we're hopefully this thing gets off the ground here shortly. So live comment right now, live chat. It's pinned. Participate. Send us feedback. BaltimoreRavensVault. We've been hearing from a lot of you via email, which is cool. BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com. Would love for you guys to connect with us there, share some feedback, and we will catch up with you on Wednesday, if not before. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday. Like the video on your way out. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Do all the things for us. We're getting ready for next week's schedule release, which will be exciting. We'll have a live stream that night. Sarah and I still got to chat about that off camera.
Live stream when?
For the schedule release, our annual show. Yeah.
Hey, Tila, was this long enough for you today? We're 93 minutes in. Was it long enough for you today?
I was going to say, we got to jump.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys. As always, for Sarah, I'm Bobby signing off from this Tuesday show. We'll catch up with you in under 23 hours from right now. And as always, Voltrons, thanks for spending some time with us here inside the vault.